plan.
Everybody ready for some snow? You think we'll get any? I said to my son,
Hope not.
he said, oh, a snow day. I said, no, there's no snow days anymore. Those are Zoom days now. Once this COVID's over, there'll be no more snow days. There's no excuse.
Okay,
That's right.
and I guess, Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then as we get to the public comment, I'll maybe take a minute there to speak to the attendees. But we do have a quorum.
Absolutely. So 7 p.m. tonight, we'll start our meeting. Thank you for those of you who are here. We'll start with our roll call. Jerry has our panelists that are logged in, so he has those. It looks like we have 8 attendees that are here. And Jerry, do you have all their names? You good?
I'm working on that, yeah.
Okay, we'll take our time until you.
You can keep going though.
Okay, so our first order of business is our approval of our minutes from our last meeting. Those on the panel, if you had a chance to read those, if there's any discussion on those meeting minutes that we had, please now. Anybody have any comment?
I think you need a motion there.
A motion to approve?
Yep, and then we have a motion to approve. Bruce, second. Larry Grundy, second. Thank you very much. Now we get to our portion of our public comment, and I guess
take a vote on that though.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. I'm ahead of myself here. All in favor of approving last week's minutes, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Any nays? Any
I abstain.
abstentions? Abstain.
Who is that?
This
Okay.
is Jim.
Jim Southers abstain.
Jim and Jay, was that?
No.
Jim and Jay abstaining? Okay.
Yes. Okay. So we move on to our public comment, and I think Jerry, what we want to identify who's here in this section right here and go from there. Go ahead.
All right. So thank you. We're now up to looks like 12 people there. So a couple of questions that we have. We do have the ability to give you the opportunity to speak. So if you would like to speak, you can send me a note in the chat. I can give you that opportunity to speak. And we do have some stuff on the chat here. Let's see. Diane Kolnaski asked if they need to be on the screen. Not necessarily. We can put you out there. Like I say, if you want to speak and stuff, we will put you out there. Tonight, what's going to happen, this meeting, just as a reminder to everybody, is being recorded, and it is being kind of live streamed to the cloud there, so it can be replayed for people. And let's see here. If you do want to speak, I guess the only person that's in the attendees that I'm not sure who you are is McGugan. So I guess, Mr. or Miss McGugan, if you can tell me your full name there, that would be helpful in the chat. And Diane, I guess, oh, Brian McGugan. Okay, there we go. Head coach at the Pitch High School. And we got a couple more folks that showed up here in the as panelists. So with that, I think I'm all set there. If anybody again has any questions, go ahead and ask me in the chat. I will try to keep an eye on that and give you the opportunity to speak if needed. So with that, Frank, back to you and maybe to Chad.
Right. So what we're going to do tonight is present to all of you kind of what we've come up with over the last few months. Chad Frost will be our spokesman. He's been part of this, I'll call it the field committee area for a long time, him and his company trying to upgrade the facilities, add more facilities, a lot of history. So I'll send it over to Chad, let him give you the details on what we've been doing. And so Chad, go right ahead and take it over.
Thanks, Frank. So, and by the way, like committee-wise, I'll do my best to summarize everything. Obviously, jump in and fill in or add in if you think I've A, misspoken or B, missed something. So jump in freely, please. For everybody that is joining in, it's pretty awesome. Happy to have everybody here. We've had actually pretty good participation throughout this process. Many of you have been here on meetings with us before to kind of talk about what the needs are in the town. We did go through and managed to get really good feedback, I thought, from the soccer club, the lacrosse club, Little League clubs, the Little League softball, travel baseball, the adult rec programs that like to rent the facilities. And last but certainly not least is the high school athletics and including band along with that. And really, I think one of the things that became apparent when we went through all those different user groups was the high school need for fields. I think we've all kind of gotten used to how Fitch is and what fields are there and how they've been used for the last 60 years. And we've just taken for granted that, you know, most of the teams kind of leave campus and use community fields throughout the town. But the more we kind of went through it and looked at it holistically, it did become a little bit apparent that some of that need, some of the high schools need is then driving community need, because obviously they're utilizing community fields when club teams and rec teams then have to wait until they're off of them. Looking at it, one of the things that kind of helped me look at it a little bit, it looks to me by my calc, and Vin, please correct me, that there's about 9 field teams that leave campus for practice. You got boys and girls soccer leaving campus, boys and girls lacrosse leaving campus. Field hockey is kind of a little bit of leaving campus. They both practice, I think, on the baseball field, outfield most of the time, but then also do games at Pequannock Plains, or have historically at least. You got JV and freshman baseball leaving campus for practice and games. All of softball, right? Every JV varsity has to leave campus. So there's a lot of teams, around 9 teams, that are leaving campus for their daily practices as well as all their games. On top of that, as we've noted through the committee, there's just a significant deficiency as far as amenities go at the high school. You know, they haven't really been upgraded at all. I'm talking support amenities like the field house, the bleachers, amenities like that, that really haven't been upgraded since they were built back in the 60s. So we think there's a big opportunity there that obviously is part of driving the demand for the fields. Kind of looking at sports or field types, I guess maybe is a good way to do it. Hopefully some of you have, if you're here, you got the invitation from Jerry. And along with that invitation from Jerry should have been a PDF of kind of our summarizing of what we think we need. So starting at the top of that, the identified needs. Looking through the clubs that use the rectangle fields, you know, through lacrosse and soccer, both kind of primarily, I think we kind of came up with, we needed at least 3 fields for the youth club sports in town to be able to meet current demand. What you can see there at the top of the list is we've upped that after talking to high school and knowing how much high school demand is, to up that to 4 rectangles is our recommendation, locating at least 2 of those at Fitch High School and 2 around the community that need to be added in order to meet the demand. When it comes to baseball, depending on how we looked at it, once we added in some of the travel programs, there became a great need for baseball fields as well. What we're noting here is 3 full-size baseball fields and 1 intermediate-sized baseball field. And for any baseball people that are on the call tonight, it would be worth discussing this. We've had a little internal conversation within the committee as to, does the 1 intermediate, was it 3 full plus an intermediate, or was it 3 fields? And if one of those could be an intermediate, that would be ideal. So it'd be good to kind of help clarify in our minds tonight. But definitely a shortage on some baseball fields. Softball fields, we identified the need between youth and especially high school, the need for 2 high school fields since Fitch doesn't even have 1. And then also at athletics up at the high school, because men's and women's tennis happened in the same season, they did just get all those courts resurfaced. I was just up there the other night. They look beautiful. They came out really nice. But there is a need for 2 more additional courts so that we can have kind of 4 on either side, enough to host the men's and the women's around the same time. So that's a lot of fields or a lot of athletic amenities that need to be added. I should also add, I guess, since I skipped over it at the top of that sheet, the addition of lights, and I'll say all amenities, lights, restrooms, storage, scoreboards, and additional bleachers at the new middle school synthetic rectangle. So we don't want to shortchange ourselves. That's been a phenomenal field. My own son has played on it several times, so I'm very grateful to have it. However, once you have it, then it becomes apparent as to what are some of the other amenities that are needed with it. I understand it was completely built as a middle school facility, but right now it's obviously the nicest field we have in town, and it would be nice to be able to utilize it a little greater. And to do that, we really need the lights, the restrooms, storage, scoreboards, the whole 9 yards to go with it. And then the other part that I should have mentioned too, as far as the high school goes, along with the addition of fields that we need up there, the high school football track just needs to be redone, right? And the only way to get a larger rectangle on there is to redo the track itself. So they have to reshape the track into a different amenity, or a different shape, I should say, so you can get the wider field for soccer to fit within it. And then upgrade everything around it, including the lights, the amenities, and the full field package. So now that Jerry scrolled down a little bit, we do have kind of our proposed solution as to how we think we can fit most of these fields, not quite all of them, and where we think they should go and what they might want to include. So that's called the proposed solution that Jerry has on the list. And at Fitch High School, like I mentioned, we're recommending renovating the stadium. So it's a new synthetic turf track and then have a new track all the way around it. The amenities that need to be associated with that should be the lights, new bleachers that are ADA accessible and safe, and probably sized accordingly to our needs now. What we have now is probably significantly oversized for the demand. We need to have storage for all sports in band. We need new concessions, new press box, ticket booth, restrooms, locker room, scoreboard. We need to figure out the parking. The parking there is always going to be a little bit challenging because we're going to be parking at the top of the hill and coming down the hill. And then we need to look at the adjacent natural area for throwing areas and for field events to happen associated with the track. Also up at the high school, we definitely need a high school softball field. We think we've found a place or two where we can locate that. And of course, as soon as you do that, as we go into next week with the time change and it's starting to get dark early, that's when lights become a recommendation for everything. So we have lights, bleachers, storage, concessions, scoreboard, the score booth, and access to restrooms, locker rooms, and parking. Some of that, of course, depending on where you're putting that field, you might be able to utilize some of the amenities within the high school, but they need to be in close proximity so visiting teams and stuff like that have easy access. And the other thing to keep in mind, of course, is restrooms for just the general public that are there to watch games. The 2 tennis courts, hopefully can be placed pretty close to the existing tennis courts, and that kind of meets that need. And then we hope to get 2 additional full-size rectangles. We're recommending they both be synthetic with lights. We understand it's going to be a tight fit, but we need to start with the best recommendation and then scale back if we have to. Again, lights, smaller bleachers, smaller scoreboard on the secondary field, and we need to figure out the access to restrooms, locker rooms, and parking for those as well. The way we kind of describe that is you keep the existing football field and the stadium as your primary, or what we call the championship field. That's your best one with all of your amenities. And then you have 2 more that are support fields. You could still host games on there. So you could have a game in the championship field and a game on one of your other fields, but you definitely have a hierarchy as far as fields and amenities go. To continue down the list and really down the hill, Sutton Park, right down the hill. Our recommendation there is to do a full-size baseball field with lights and a full-size high school softball field also with lights. There's 2 fields down there now. We can reconfigure them to get 2 of those new fields in there without too much problem. Also, of course, lights, bleachers, storage, possibly concessions, the press box, restrooms, parking, scoreboards, dugouts, all the amenities that need to go along with a high school field. What we really like about this idea is they both serve, both those fields, the full-size baseball and the softball, serve the high school teams. They're right down the hill from the high school, obviously, with the new middle school kind of acting as the connector in the middle. It's a much better scenario from a high school athletic standpoint to be able to have those athletes, leave school and be able to walk right down the hill to practice. And one of the discussions we've had plenty of times is those athletes that might need to stay after school and get some additional academic help when their teams are practicing across town and the bus leaves. They have to make that choice to either be on the bus and go to practice or stay and miss practice entirely and get the academic help. By having those 2 fields right at the bottom of the hill, hopefully that helps alleviate some of those problems where the students could stay for academic help and still make it to practice down the hill on their own without having to choose one or the other. So it kind of, Sutton Park then becomes almost an ancillary piece of the high school athletics, but still serves the recreation needs of the public because we still need both that full-size field in softball and baseball. Looking further down and a little bit further to the west, Claude Chester School, obviously right next door to Paquonic Plains. We're looking there, the recommendation would be when that school closes, that we look to fit 2 full-size rectangles there. Ideally, they'd both be synthetic with lights. We could also look at 1 synthetic and 1 natural surface if for budget constraints or for desire. And then also locate an intermediate size baseball field on that site as well. The amenities for all should include the lights, bleachers on all, good, well-sized storage container. One of the things that we've definitely found a shortage at Paquonic Plains and in most fields around town is storage. They get used by all the youth programs. None of the youth programs, of course, can have a place to keep all their things since they're using town fields. So to be able to store goals and equipment and coaches' things, we need to be able to have the correct storage. And then also you need, the ability to maintain it. So you need the storage for all the things to maintain those areas as well. So storage is a big concern. Concessions would be ideal. Again, press box, ticket booths, restrooms, locker rooms, and then parking is going to be a big thing there too. And I think the way we figure out how to integrate Paquonic Plains and Claude Chester fields so that it can all act as one large complex. If there's a company that comes in and wants to run tournaments, you now have up to 5 really good rectangles. So getting the parking to work, getting that whole place to feel like one unified park would be the way to go. And we all know that parking at Paquonic Plains can get tricky at times when you have a lot of games going on all 3 fields, plus the community using the beautiful playground. The parking overflows very quickly. And so if we think about adding, almost that same amount of fields next door, we need to make sure we're not just adding the same amount of parking, but probably adding significantly more so that we can have overflow from both facilities and still accommodate everybody. And then lastly, to try to round everything out was at the Groton Community Center. to upgrade one of the fields there to a nice little league field. That was one of the things that we noted we were still in deficit, and there is the ability to put it there relatively easily. And of course, there are bleachers, electricity, and parking as just a little league field. So if you're kind of doing the math and keeping up, what we think we have, we haven't been able to quite fit every field that we've identified a need for somewhere in town. And we think we're meeting most of the need. We want to propose what we think is the best case scenario for all residents of the town. But we are kind of saying that we're short 1 to 2 baseball fields. And I say 1 to 2 because we know there's one going back in at what will be the Cutler Elementary School. And if we add one at the down at Sutton Park, that's probably 1.5 fields as of the 3 that we need. We do lose an adult small softball field that's currently at Sutton Park that would get displaced, and we don't have a place for it to go. And we also have a loss of a small softball field. Didn't seem to be all that critical to us when we went through the discussions with the different user groups, but again, that's why we're presenting it tonight, to kind of get feedback and make sure we've heard everybody correctly. And if we misheard anything, or you think we're recommending something that's crazy for one reason or another, now is when we kind of want to know it, to do the gut check on everything. And I don't think it's worth going through. We have a lot of existing fields. We looked at all of them. They're on the list. We know there's some new fields with Grosso Tech going in that we're hoping that also takes a little bit of pressure off of some of the other fields in town, and also hopefully maybe becomes something that we can, as residents of the town, might be able to have access to, or at least partner with them in a way that helps alleviate some of the deficiencies we can't quite meet everywhere in town. With that, the other thing we should probably point out, all the way there at the bottom of your list, Jerry, for further discussion, we've definitely talked a lot about scheduling. I know for myself, when I have to try to schedule fields, it's definitely a pain calling this principal and then this rec department and trying to coordinate through a bunch of different places. We've heard it from everybody. So we definitely want to recommend a way to centralize the field scheduling for schools and community use, so that it makes it simpler for hopefully everyone, the people maintaining them and the people organizing them and the clubs and communities trying to use them. So with that, I think that's my short summary, and committee, please jump in if you think I missed anything or said anything wrong, and then I guess we can take comments and questions.
Yeah, just to add, by the way, I think you did a great job presenting that and summarizing it. Just to add, I know it was written, but I don't think it was stated that the lighting of the middle school and putting lights at the middle school is going to also alleviate a lot of pressure on the high school field, high school scheduling.
Excellent point. I agree. That was written and I probably skipped over it, so I agree.
Councilor Berlin?
Thank you. Again, I think you did a great job on the presentation, and I think there's been a lot of hard work put into this. Just want to commend all the people involved for the many nights, sometimes, a couple times a month even. So it's been quite busy, and I just couldn't stress the importance of looking at some type of plan here, just to segue with that. Also, just to be ABA compliant and to make sure that we have special ed accessibility, and making sure that our women's sports are equally represented and adequately supported in our community, just like male sports. So providing locker rooms and generating a field house that would allow such for all athletes and all sports to have equal opportunity and use of appropriate facilities for their sports. Also looking at not just the field improvement, but I think the amenities as far as like the field house, the concession stand, restrooms, those things are very underserved throughout our community, even at some of our fields. I mean, if you go down to Sutton Park on any given day, you might watch a game and there's sometimes no restroom open or out of service. The same thing happens at the high school. You'll watch a tennis match or go to baseball, and sometimes the school's not open and there's a porta potty. And, so I just think that it is really important as we look at the school as a whole and we try to compete not only athletically, but academically, as well as looking at our marching band, who is highly competitive in our community. We want to set the mark, as we bring in higher levels of education into our high school, we need to then match that with the facilities, with our surrounding towns. And when you start to look around at our surrounding towns, we're not meeting the standard. And that's fair to say. I feel comfortable saying that as a graduate of 98 at Fitch. It's the same stuff that was there when I was there. And I think it's really, really important that we raise that bar. And that's all I have to say. And I just want to thank all the committee members here that I've worked with over the last however long. It's been very interesting and a lot of work. And I think you guys put a lot of time into this, and I'm sure it may go many directions, but it's work. We put in a lot of time, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
So Frank, I'm just going to jump in here. We have a couple more attendees have shown up. And Jim, I don't know what your last name is there. So if you can send me your name in the chat, your last name, so I can add it to our meeting minutes. And also we have a panelist who's here that I'm not sure who that is. Phone number ending in 7025. So if you can unmute yourself and let me know who you are so I can make sure I keep the minutes correct, that would be helpful. And with that, Frank, I guess you can solicit some more responses from the
right. So I would ask the panel, is there anyone else on the panel who has anything else to say at this time? If not, I think I figured out how to tell who has hands up or who would like to speak. So if anyone of the attendees would like to say something or add something that we've missed or something you'd like to say, I think I can, between Jerry and I, we can see hands up, and then I'll try to call on those who have put their hand up. So please feel free to chime in. Any comments are welcomed.
All right, so we've got Mike Doyle here. I'm going to go ahead and let you speak. Mike, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mike Doyle, 15 Elm Street in Noank. I want to thank everybody on the task force for attending all these meetings and coming up with with these identified needs. And my only thought is I don't think it's too early to start trying to figure out how we're going to fund this this plan, because I don't want to say a number, but it's going to be a big number that we'll have to come up with. So, but I thank you for all your time, and it's a great list of things that we need for the town. That's all.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, one thing you have to remember, and Jerry can help me out at the end here, but the direction of this task force was to identify needs. I mean, that was really our number one, by reaching out to the people that we've talked to, coming up with the needs of the community and our student athletes, the community. And so, yeah, that is something we've talked about many times. And we don't have an answer to that yet, but we totally understand that is going to be part of the equation for sure. Anyone else? As I scroll.
Can I just add to that that comment about the finance? I think that's a huge factor, and I agree that this, what we were tasked with to do was to come up with a plan. But I think in order to think of the money, we got to present a plan first, and then start really identifying the need, so that maybe we can look at like grants and other avenues to fund. So I think I definitely agree that the funding will be a huge part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
So we've got a number. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce. I'll let you.
Okay, if there's somebody else who wants to speak, that's fine. I can wait.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Bruce.
Thanks. A couple of things. I was wondering if we're going to meet any more after this, because I was wondering how we were going to present this to the council, meaning that will there be some kind of written going along with the chart, some kind of, not fluff, but, information about how we came to what we came to, and kind of put it down in writing, and quite possibly to the point about finances where we don't want to do that, but at least maybe, give relevance or importance of each addition that we're asking for. And then I was also wondering if there would be, Chad, that talked about it before, but the like spreadsheets that you had that showed kind of like the needs and what we had and what they add, and like kind of showing a before and an after with where the town was at when we started, and based on our recommendations where the town would be at, I think would be really helpful. So but that's my question is it seems to me like we need to have a meeting again just to put it in some kind of report that would go along with the diagram that was presented today. That's all. Thanks.
Bruce, I think that actually is on our agenda for tonight in 6.1 to discuss the course of future actions, kind of how we're going to get from where we're at right now to where we're going to be. I do see that there is whoever phone number 7025, you lit up there like you were making some noise. I just want to make sure that if you wanted to speak.
So it's Tara.
Oh, thank you, Tara.
Yep.
Did you have anything to say?
Nope.
Tara is from Shoreline Sport and Social Club, adults.
Social sports.
Thank you. Thank you. Adults in the community participating. She's been a member of the committee. I was going to say, I see that we have a lot of high school coaches and people at the high school as attendees. We are kind of curious. We've heard a lot from Mr. Costa, but Mr. Ellis, Mr. McGugan, others, Ms. Kolnaski, others up there at the high school. If what you think about this, if it's going to meet your needs. And I see Mike Ellis now has his hand up. So let me.
Jerry, can you hear me now?
Mike, you're just going to have to unmute.
You guys got me?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you very much. I really like the plan. I think it's a great idea for the fields in Groton. One of the questions that I had was, is there a plan yet at Fitch as to where these fields are going to be located? In terms of where they're going to be set, where's the synthetic field's going to go? Where's the natural field going to go? Things like that.
Go ahead, Chad, go ahead.
I'll say very loosely, Mike. We've looked at it, from a very high level. So I have the GIS data from the high school, and we've designed plenty of fields. And so we kind of looked at it and said, without really getting into it, yes, we think we can fit those fields in different areas. We know there's going to be some complications. We know there's a water line, for example, that's going to be an issue, and we know some of the amenities, and there's going to be problems obviously to solve, but we're fairly confident we can fit them in there. Obviously, lots of details to be figured out, but the short answer is yes, but a lot of things are still to come.
Got it. And is there a final view of what the field house is going to look like when it's finished? With an old field house, I say the newer field house, but it's really not new.
The short answer there is no. Again, down the road, that's one of those, we've identified the need. We're going to have to, we need to go to the next step, right? The town needs to then hire an architect, and we need to go through the process of really vetting out, like, all right, how big is this, each locker room need to be, and what are the amenities, and all that sort of stuff. And then that gets placed down, as how big the building really needs to be. How does it fit on the site? For now, we're just kind of showing, in my own, studies, we're just kind of showing some generic sized buildings that we think can accommodate it, whether it's 1-story or 2-story or what it looks like. We don't have a clue yet. but just the confidence that we think we can get it to fit.
Can you hear me again?
Yep,
Yep,
go
Mike.
ahead.
I'm sorry. The last question that I had was, or not a question, but I know you talked about reducing the size of the bleachers, and certainly for, the games that we have, they don't fill them at all. I do know though at graduation, those home bleachers are filled with the way that they set that up. So I just thought that you might want to take that into account when into how much you are reducing the bleachers there at the high school.
Yeah, I think, Mike, and just, again, just to kind of reiterate what Chad was saying, we kind of were dealing with conceptual things, is there enough property up there to kind of fit these things? And the answer to
Yeah.
that is yes. When we go into full on design, we're going to find out, how many restrooms we need, how many spaces we need in the bleachers to accommodate whatever happens there. So all of those questions, I think, at this point are those are things that when we go to the designer, the architect to design these things to actually build them, that's when those questions will be answered like that. Frank, I did see Larry with his hand.
Oh, go ahead, Larry.
Well, you just kind of answered it, but I was just going to also add, we fill them up at the marching band competition every year as well, too. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Larry, is that both sides or is that home side? Because that's one of the things we're trying to wrap our head around.
Right. So we certainly fill the home side up. Sometimes there is some overflow depending on the year to the away side as well. But we certainly don't fill both sides up.
Frank, we have Diane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Diane.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well, first of all, I have to just say my players, my field hockey team has had a great time playing on that new turf field. We're very appreciative, very thankful that for the first time we've had actually a regulation field. It meets all the size requirements and the turf requirements. So, and they are enjoying the opportunity to practice at times and obviously play home games on that field. But the need for, I just want to support the need for lights because at this point we're sharing practice times with both soccer teams from the high school. And again, we can only use the field after the middle school has had their intramural programs, which makes it kind of tight in the fall when it's getting dark and trying to schedule games and around when they want to run programs. And I totally understand the need for that. It's really difficult. So being really able to utilize that field and have the potential to have night practices, which, would be fine for most high school students, would really open that up a lot for us. And the other thing that I just wanted to put out there, as well as we have up to right now, with COVID and regulations on how many players and spectators we can have, we have up to 150 people there with one bathroom, with one porta-john. And it doesn't, obviously, it's the best we can do right now. And I know, we're paying for these porta-johns in different places, but it's really, when you talk about raising the bar and meeting the needs of the community, a busload of kids come from Woodstock, and believe me, more than one needs to use the porta-john, and there are no bathrooms to access. And so the field is wonderful, but with that field comes the responsibility of making it right for everyone. And so that's really important. And then my last question is, at this point, I know the fields are still locked. And so when coaches are there, we're able to unlock the field and our players can practice. And I'm just wondering, is that the way it's going to be? Or at this point, is it because it's still a construction site and they just don't want people on it unless they're supervised? And that's my final thought. But again, thanks for everyone's hard work. We are loving all the new fields that, and very proud of the new fields and work that the town has done. Thank you.
I do note that we have Sam Kilpatrick here on the call, and in terms of why that field is locked or how it's locked, I don't know if Sam, if I can put you on the spot there, that really isn't something we've discussed here in this task force, but it may be something that you can answer. I don't know if that's true or not.
Still muted.
And again, I was kind of putting him on the spot. He may not have no interest.
No, I'm here now. I couldn't unmute myself there for a minute, which some people would be very happy about, I think. Yeah, it's still a construction site, and I think the middle school would prefer to keep them locked up until we get that taken care of and resolved. I know we need to lock up the new sodded field too, to keep people off of there, because that's not quite ready for use until the spring. So I think until O&G is done there and turns everything over to us, I think we got to keep it locked up. I think Ms. Kolnaski knows that her yellow lines are going in presently, and with the bad weather this week, unfortunate that we get into bad weather this week, but the lines should be done next week for the field hockey. So we should be in pretty good shape after that.
Also, we had a lot of discussion from the high school, but I see Russ and maybe some others from baseball. If you could maybe chime in and give us your thoughts about how well the proposed option might meet your needs, that would be great. And I see Coach McGugan.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good, Brian.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah, so this plan really looks awesome from a baseball point of view. Just speaking from baseball, obviously, because that's kind of what we're paying the most attention to over the year. We were really hurting there. We're still really hurting as of right now while Cutler's going through its process. Had it not been for COVID actually kind of saved us this year, because it was going to be a mess trying to have 3 freshmen, JV, and varsity all up at the high school every single day. And not only that, it probably would have ruined that field, which actually really took a hit this year with a lot of the travel, not as much maintenance as it's gotten in the past. I was going up there from April and May until the COVID really started getting thick. I'm trying to take care of it, but no, the plan looks great. And, just utilizing Sutton was always a thought that was in my mind for the specific reason of that the kids could walk down there rather than taking the bus from outside the gym down to Cutler like they usually would. And you nailed it right on the head when you said that kids had to make the decision academically or not to miss practice, get in trouble from the coach and all that stuff. So, I don't think it's an issue that teams have to go off campus, but even to go off campus, can be tough. So, going off campus is okay, but we don't even really have the amenities to go off campus. Some of them do, but, baseball doesn't. And like I said, that's kind of where, my outlook on that. And just what you guys have proposed. I mean, even if we get one full-size baseball field, I think that'll make, and especially if it's synthetic, that can make, all the difference in the world when it comes to baseball. That's all
Brian,
I have, guys.
Brian, I have a question for you as a coach. What do you think about when you ask your teams to come back after, let's say, so you're going to practice 2 teams at the high school? How do they respond to, you got to come back at 6 o'clock to have practice? So they're going to go home, they're going to do their thing, and then they're going to come back at 6, 7 o'clock to practice. Is that doable?
I mean, yeah, it was going to be, and I had it all laid out. Mike Porter and I and some of our other assistants, we sat down and we actually had a meeting just on that. How the heck are we going to do this? And, it was going to be freshmen from right after school till 2:30 to say 3:30 on the actual field. Then the freshmen were going to go back to the batting cage for an hour. So it would have been overlapping practices with field use and then batting cage use. And the varsity guys were going to come on later. I think our start time was going to be 4:30. As you guys know, our first game last year was March 31st. So, to come on at 4:30, it was just going to be tough to get the proper work that we needed to get in. Obviously, a sport like us with throwing and everything, we got to be in, we got to be warmed up, we got to be loose for the season, or injuries happen just all the time. So I think to answer your question, it would have worked. But especially with the seniors, I don't want to say a lot of them had their license, and we're able, obviously everyone's pretty local. To go home, get your work done, come back. But I guarantee you, I would have had a much bigger problem with people being late, and probably some kids, maybe not doing the right thing in that time that they were off. And I was going to make it kind of a team rule that if you did not have a license, you were to stay after school and not leave to do your work there and whatnot. So we had a couple different avenues that we were going to run with it. But like I said, baseball is my life. But I wasn't so mad when the COVID took our season, because man, it was going to be tough. And not to mention the abuse the field was going to take from all that foot traffic for 3 straight months, 6 days a week.
Yeah, because I think it's going to be an issue, because the beautiful thing about putting in these synthetic fields is you could essentially have the football team practices, and maybe they have a freshman game on a Monday and they're using the championship field, and the varsity's practicing on another field. But at 6:30, 7 o'clock, you can have a soccer game, and you can have your teams come in to either play or practice later. And the question would be, how is that going to work for you guys? Will that work? Because putting synthetic fields down and then lights on them just opens it up so much better.
Yeah, my son plays his summer ball out in Long Island, and I know there's, financially they're pretty well off out there, but they have nothing but synthetic everywhere. I don't think we played on a grass field the whole time, and just they would run little league games and literally just pick up the bases and move the mound and play 18U, 17U games, and then move them back in. And they would constantly run games from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So a synthetic baseball field for high school purposes and, for Russ's sake with the travel and some of the other teams in the area, it's a total, like I said, even one field is a total game changer. And I know you guys proposed a few, which is really awesome, but, one full-size baseball field, you can make those synthetic fields. So there's anchors for little league, intermediate, and high school, or the large size field. So
what do you feel about the safety of those fields, Brian?
As far as what the synthetic?
Well, yeah, because of moving the mounds, you have to move. I don't know exactly how they do it, but yeah, there's been we've talked about it, but there was some concern about safety issues.
I've never heard of anyone really getting hurt doing any of that. Literally the mound it slides on the turf for the most part, and I think there's an anchoring process. And that's just just an extent that I'm going to try to say that even one field would be great. Not that we would need it for little league size kids, because once you hit 13 years old, 13 until you're done playing, you're on that one size, the one size fits all field. So I think as far as little league fields go in Groton, Calvin Burrows is immaculate. I have the privilege every day of driving to the airport for work right when the sun's rising up over that field, with the lights and the turf the way it is there. And Washington Park Little League field is really in great shape as well. Obviously the amenity, the dugouts can be fixed and stuff, but those Little League fields are beautiful. So I don't know if there's a Little League field proposed on there, but with the use, with those 2 fields, I don't know that we necessarily would need a Little League field, but that's just my opinion. Little League is kind of,
Sorry to interrupt there. I just wanted to give others an opportunity here. I know I see Tom Butler, who is a community soccer coach, and anybody, and there's some other people I don't know. Eugenia, I think you had something to do with the Conservation Commission, perhaps. Katrina Fitzgerald, and Russ, I think you're a baseball as well. So if any of you would like to kind of weigh in on what it is that you see, or what your needs might be. I know, and maybe Tom, maybe I'll just put you on the spot. Well, we got Russ and we got Tom. So yeah, great. I'm glad you guys are willing to speak.
Hey, Jerry. Hey guys. Thanks. Can you guys hear me? I think I
Yeah,
pushed
you're
on.
good.
Okay, great. So thanks for the invitation and thank you for, this big undertaking. I don't have a lot to, I will say that I would echo much of what Brian, just said about the sport of baseball and the kind of the needs that we have in the community. I think this proposal meets those. And so, that's certainly, something that we appreciate. So thank you so much for that. The only question I would have is in terms of these synthetic fields, are they using chrome rubber fields here, or are we going with an alternative? There are obviously those studies out there in the public domain that show chrome rubber, leading to various cancers in children, especially goalies and players who play a position that are on the ground often. So I know at Mystic Indoor Sports, when they put their turf in, they specifically did not use chrome rubber as a material. So I don't know what the direction of the committee here is.
So just again, Russ, I don't know that we haven't gotten into that type of discussion. The synthetic field that's at the middle school right now use some kind of, I believe it's some kind of fiber inside it without and not using chrome rubber. Chad Frost is probably the expert on maybe what they used up there. But what the fields that we are proposing, what synthetic infill might be, that's, we're just dealing with synthetic or natural turf. We're not dealing with any of those kind of specifications at this point. But obviously, I think, that was something that somebody took note of at the middle school, and that synthetic field does have a natural infill rather than crumb rubber infill.
Great.
Tom, can you?
Yeah,
Jerry.
can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So if you need to translate what I'm saying, I'll do it in the chat. But yeah, so like Jerry said, obviously I'm representing Southeast Soccer Club, which is the local premier soccer club. So we pull kids from all over the Southeast district, and we play teams from all over the Northeast. Obviously not at the moment, given the situation that we're in, but in a regular year, we will play teams from anything from New Hampshire to Pennsylvania to New York, Delaware, and so for the longest time, we've kind of used community fields, whether it be in New London or Old Lyme or East Lyme, and we're at the stage now where we're obviously using Pequannock planes this season. We've been fortunate enough to be able to do that, given that a lot of other programs aren't on there this fall. And our experience in Groton has been fantastic. The amount of compliments that teams from whether it be Stamford or the Hartford area or whatever, the compliments that they give Pequannock when they come and play on it are through the roof. I've told Jerry numerous times, everyone loves coming and playing in this area. And I think the other thing that I've spoken to Jerry about is, given the fact that we bring people in from all over the state and ultimately other states, the location of these facilities that we're talking about are fantastic, given that then people can stay within the area, given that the hotels in Mystic and obviously all of what the area has to offer as a whole. I think if we as a club were to use these facilities and bring in the other clubs from different states, the amount of additional revenue that would bring in for the area would be huge. I'll give you an example. I'm traveling to Stamford tomorrow night for an away game. And then I have another game in Bridgeport on Saturday morning. So I'm actually staying overnight down that end of the state. So that would potentially be the model for teams coming to play us. They would potentially stay and bring revenue into the area, whether it be meals or hotels or whatever. So we're fully in support of this in any way that we can. That we feel as though the area, I think everyone would agree, is crying out for additional turf fields, given the lovely weather that we have in the northeast, and the amount of games that have to be cancelled on grass. I think if we can guarantee these kids having had 6 months off and are crying out for as much sport as they can possibly get to make up for that, I think if we can limit the amount of cancellations with grass fields and get more turf in there, that would be phenomenal given the situation that we're in.
So Tom, maybe I'll put you a little bit on the spot here after I make another comment. But one of the things with the COVID environment, as Tom mentioned there, we have our local soccer club, Groton Soccer Club, is not using the fields this fall, and in years prior to this, we've never entertained premier soccer on our fields or adult soccer or other things because we haven't had capacity to do those things. And just in the since Southeast has used the field, I've been talking with clubs from Rhode Island and Massachusetts who are also interested in using our field at Pequannock Plains. There is demand for field space beyond what our local youth, just Groton youth have. And Tom spoke to it a little bit there, but, Tom, I guess, you've mentioned some other towns where you would go, but, ideally it sounds like Pequannock Plains on a natural turf field, you'd love that. But, say we make these other two community use synthetic fields, it seems to me that you would probably jump at that as well, correct?
100%. I mean, at the moment, we have 10 teams playing. We've got a number of kids who play for Fitch. So Dave Lynch and Matt Ford, who are the assistants at Fitch with the boys, they both coach within the club for us. Timmy and Thomas, their kids, they both play in the club for us. So we have a direct link to the local community. I mean, I live on Ensign Drive off Flanders. I live literally 3 minutes away from Pequannock. I mean, I've lived here for 16 years, and in my 16 years, as Jerry said, I'm having to leave Groton and travel to Old Lyme or East Lyme and things like that. So selfishly, I would love to drive 3 minutes to work every day. But I think to that point, 100%, we as a club would love one home and not just do what we do at the moment and kind of go season to season. I think I speak for the club in that if we could develop a long-term partnership with a town like Groton and the facilities that you're talking about, we would be in it for the long haul. It wouldn't just be, we'd love to use your fields once a week. It would be, we would love to use your fields whenever your community aren't using them, and we would fill them up in the times that you can't fill them up, whether it be with our teams or, like we've discussed, on weekends. We would then play all of our home games in the community.
Good.
Russ, is that situation kind of a like situation in terms of travel baseball? I don't know if Russ is still here or maybe he got pulled away, but I was just kind of interested if he had a take on that from travel baseball, because again, for the, the folks on the committee know this, that the initial needs assessment we did was really dealing with just, youth sports in Groton. And as we've gone through this exercise, we've heard from travel programs that are scrambling for space. And it seems like there's, if we add that in, and I see
Jerry.
Bill Borswitz.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, this is Russ. Hey, sorry, my daughter pulled me out for about 2 seconds there. So yeah, I think similar situation, where we are always scrambling, for fields especially. and knowing that we play second fiddle to the high school teams, of course. And so, as we should, so it is somewhat difficult at times to find fields to play on. So, the Board of Ed has always been very good to us. Brian has always been very, whenever it's open and available. But there's just so many teams now. I mean, right, just in Groton, we have, I think 3 travel organizations, 2 or 3. And in the immediate area, 4 to 5, and everybody's just vying for field. So, I think we're in a similar boat. I hope that answers your question. I only got the tail end of it as I was walking into the room. So.
And Jerry, this is Jim. I think there's also the same thing exists for softball, for girls softball as well. From a travel perspective, there are also several, I know that we actually participate within a local travel team that has several age groups, and there are plenty of others in the area that are looking for fields. So I think there's definitely demand there in all of those areas.
Fortunately, we have had travel softball teams in the past on our fields, which that's something that doesn't happen in all sports, but we've been fortunate enough with travel softball to do a little bit of that. But yeah, thank you for that, Jim, for that reminder. And we have Bill with his hand up, and I see Larry also.
Yeah, hi, Bill Borswitz. I was just going to echo what Russ had said before, where we struggled to have fields. We had to go to Stonington, for a little while this summer before Fitch opened up, and if you add that second full field, also you could have tournaments like East Lyme does, Warwick the Shore. You could have them in Groton now because you'd have the 2 fields that would be located. Plus, you'd still probably be able to use Washington Park as well. So, that second full baseball field is going to be huge if that happens at Sutton.
You got Larry there, Frank.
Yep. Go ahead, Larry. I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem. So I'll just add that, we host a marching band competition at Fitch every year. And we have bands that have shown up that when they come to our field, it's the first time they've been on grass all year. So for some of those kids, it's a little bit of a different experience because they've never done it before, because it is quite different marching on a grass field as opposed to a synthetic turf. And with the synthetic turf and talking about like tournaments, not that marching band's really a tournament so much, but we've last year in particular, we could have hosted the New England Championships at Fitch, where 40 to 50 bands from New England would have come into our town for the day. But because we didn't have synthetic turf, we weren't able to, because that's what they require. So, just that'd be another big one-day event that, could potentially be a big draw for our area.
Thanks, Larry.
Hey,
Anyone
Frank,
else?
I got just a question, kind of a follow-up for the baseball guys. As I kind of alluded to going through it, we heard, we're trying to make sure we heard you guys right in what the needs are and what we can provide. I think everybody has said what we're hoping to provide sounds good. And I'm just wondering if initially we thought we heard 3 full size and an intermediate size, which to me is 4 fields, which I thought was a little bit more. And what we were able to provide is, obviously the one at the high school, hopefully one at Sutton, one at Claude Chester, and that one being the intermediate size field. And then obviously the new one being rebuilt at Cutler. And I'm just, what I'd like to do, I guess, is from your perspectives, if those proposed fields you think will meet the need, then maybe we want to change our identified needs at the top as a committee so that we're not showing a deficit, as we go forward. And if you think these fields only just barely meet the need and we should continue to show the deficit, I'm just trying to make sure we prepare our presentation and report it accurately. So any feelings you guys have on that would be appreciated.
Chad, I can ask you a question. This is Brian McGugan from Fitch. Is your proposal to turf the baseball field that's currently at the high school? Did I hear that correctly or no?
No, we were not proposing to turf that one. We were really proposing to leave that one alone. The turf field at the high school would be the rectangles, and then it'd be 2 new full-size fields down the hill.
So 2 new full-size fields down at Sutton.
A full-size baseball, a full-size softball at Sutton, and then another baseball at Clodchester, and then obviously replaced baseball at Butler.
I think, just for clarification, I don't think we were proposing any synthetic surface baseball fields. They were all, I think, envisioned as natural surface. Is that?
I mean, I think you could cut your proposal down by, if you're proposing 4 total natural grass, you could go with 2 full-size synthetic. And I don't know what does for you price-wise. It might break even, but maintenance is less, longevity is less. And like I said, you got some different anchored spots, and you can use different levels of play and stuff like that. But again, it's just the synthetic thing. The synthetic process is the way to go for anything, if you ask me. I mean, obviously, if we're creating if we need a rectangle field and we got a good patch of grass where we can keep it, but I mean, I think first and foremost, the football field, obviously, just speaking for Mike, that's something that we just need. That's way overdue, and we need that. And then when it comes to baseball field, if we are going to put, like I said, 1 full-size field in, we could go with 1 synthetic and probably make out really, really well by just having that right down at the bottom of the hill, a brand new synthetic full-size baseball field at Sutton. Just 1, in my opinion.
Because you got to remember, you also have I'll call it on the weekends, but you also have Groton Tech putting in a brand new field that we're hoping to be able to capitalize on as well.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, we don't need 4 full-size baseball fields in Groton. I mean, I think that's probably too much, honestly. I don't know, Russ, how you feel about that if you're listening, but
yeah, I think the more fields, the better.
I mean, Fitch. I mean, they put almost $1 million into Fitch a few years ago for the schooners. I know we didn't do that, but somebody did.
Yeah.
And it's already like it needs so much money into it now. I don't even want to begin to get into that. What it needs now. I mean, I've done my best with fundraising to put up foul poles and done some sodding and stuff. And the town does pretty good too with what they can and the time and the resources they have. But I mean, our whole infield dirt needs to be brought up like 4 inches. Our whole right field is starting to sink down. If we get a decent rain, right field's a puddle. We're not playing. We're not practicing. There's just a lot of finishing touches out there that need to be done, even on that field.
Yeah, my only concern would be, if you did just have those 2 fields, it would still be difficult. I feel like, for travel teams to get a heck of a lot of time, when we're working around, obviously the team, the high school team, which again, we all agree is the most important. So, and takes precedent over any of us. So, that's the part as a travel coach that's difficult for me is, I still envision a difficulty in getting time on a field for us. And do we then have to go to the Pfizer field in Ledyard and try to get that squared away with Ledyard Parks and Rec, or do we then have to go to Stonington, and try to get on the Stonington High School field again, like we did this spring or this summer? So, look, our team in particular, we try to draw from Groton Mystic. We don't really draw from elsewhere. And so for us, we really want to play in Groton. We want to practice in Groton. We want to play our games in Groton as often as we can. So.
Yeah, no, good point, Russ. And that was just, again, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here on thoughts. Obviously the proposal's fresh in my mind. So I'm just thinking as far as location go, I mean, Sutton's great. It's the place I've always thought about too. I guess if we could squeeze in 2 regular natural grass fields down there would be spectacular as well. But like I said, that synthetic, especially the newer, synthetic's been out for a long time now, probably like 12 to 15 years. And especially the stuff they're laying down now, it's just lasts forever. It literally lasts forever. It's super duper low maintenance. It's actually really 0 maintenance. And, it's just the way to go. Personally, I think that.
Frank, I saw Portia trying to speak.
Oh, sorry, Portia, go right ahead.
That's all right. No, I just agree that, I definitely agree that as I stated in the many meetings we've been in, we're at the point where it's really not even an option anymore. It's kind of a bit embarrassing that we have to go to other towns. Our own Groton families have to go elsewhere to find quality fields to use. So if that doesn't tell you, I know people keep asking for the dollar amount and what's the cost, but what's the cost that, our town, that you just will settle for what we have, and that's okay, because what's the dollar amount? And yes, I understand at this point in time with COVID, it is going to be a high dollar amount and it's a hard thing to talk about. But I think it's great that, then people are talking about this need and wanting to push this forward, because there are other, towns that have gotten a lot of funding and fundraising and, donations and state help, as long as a plan's in place. With that, it's not just the fields that we bring in, it's the maintenance of them. So even what we have existing, and you look at this, well done thing that Chad Frost has done, a lot of the stuff we had is there. We can call it a field, but it's not really safe, And so as they spoke tonight about the baseball field, it's one beautiful thing. When you start walking on it, it's another. And then when you look at the facilities and the amenities there, the amount of money that went into that, but yet, I saw a handicapped family in a wheelchair trying to wheel down there to go sit to watch their son, and then there's nothing but a porta potty. I mean, so it's the amenities too. And I can't agree more that the synthetic fields, as long as they're done right, environmentally safe, and health concerns also taken into consideration, it will decrease the maintenance, because right now we're having trouble maintaining what we have. And a lot of our fields are needing repairs as we speak. So if we did nothing, we have a football field that's needed to be capped for, I don't know for how long. It looks like a bad filling in a tooth, and it's not safe for a player. One of the things everyone keeps saying, well, we already have this. Oh, we have that. Someone approached me at the grocery store the other day. I don't want to spend any money on my taxes. We already have a field. The football team's fine. And I'm like, do you realize the injuries that can happen on that field from a concussion standpoint of our fields in our town that are not surface quality ready for what we're doing and the impact that we're giving them? From the band's perspective, people talked tonight about having to wait till 6 o'clock. It's not fair that our students have to wait that long on the band perspective to come back to the school, or on the parents. I think the Sutton Park is a great proposal also, because, we do need to think academic first and athletics, and the children need to have the accessibility to get to sports. With that, how about the pride? The way that our school is set up, it's like, here's the building, and then, oh, wait, we're going to need fields later. Now let's have them. And, the pride of, leaving after a school event and going to watch your classmate or friend play ball on campus is part of that pride. It was always hard for freshman teams to get over to Cutler if they didn't drive as freshmen to go watch a friend play after school. So just all of those things are just the drivers that, I think that people have said tonight that I keep taking away, and the need for synthetic fields. And not only that, the lights, especially on that practice side where the football plays and the throwing fields are, adding lights over there and restrooms and different things like that will extend the quality here and attract people to our town. And I know people keep putting a dollar amount on it. How much you're going to spend? What is this going to cost in my taxes? Well, how about the attractability of young families that come in that see not only our curriculum that is, wonderful, but then look at our athletic field. So I'll stop there, but I think it's some great points about the quality and the needs. And so if we did nothing, we're still going to have to do something. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
I don't notice if don't know if everybody has their chat turned on, but Eugenia mentioned that she's not here to speak tonight, but she did have some concerns about environmental impact of synthetic fields, and she'll get back to us on that. And Mike Ellis has his hand up.
Yep.
No, I just wanted to talk about what the comment that Portia just made in terms of the maintenance of the fields. Our football practice field, where the track also throws, was just redone, I believe, a year ago, and it's already there's no grass on it anymore. It's complete dirt. It's crabgrass. And that was, I believe, a $20,000 to $30,000 redo of that field that they put in. So I think that does need to be taken into consideration when we're talking about all these grass fields.
Thanks. Agreed.
Hey, Frank.
Go ahead, Chad.
Brian, if I could follow up with you. So it was, and I have not walked out on the baseball field for probably at least a year, if not two. So when you said, that there's issues with it, was news to me. And I think we definitely want to hear, my assumption, and then obviously probably incorrect, and maybe that of our committee, was that because $1 million was sunk into that field, in my mind, not too long ago, but yet obviously everything requires maintenance and gets a ton of use. If we're having issues with it, it was not really on our list of things that needed to be improved as we went forward. But it sounds like that might have been an oversight or an assumption on our part that we should correct. If that field is in need of that much work, and if you're trying to raise money or find money within facilities or whatever to get repairs done, we should definitely hear that list. You kind of said I don't want to get into it, but I'd rather.
Well, I didn't want to I didn't want to turn the meeting just about me and my baseball issues, but it was just when you drive up on and you're looking over the field and the sun's over there and the grass is green, like Portia said, it looks great. But you start walking down there and you're like, wow. Every time we get a rain, shortstop, second base, first base, right field are the low spots where over the years, a puddle happens, somebody, and it could be a little bit of our fault too, trying to get the field ready too fast after a rainstorm for a game. We go pump out the puddles. And of course, when you're pumping out puddles, you're sucking up the dirt and you're throwing that away too. So every time you do that, it gets deeper and deeper. But the overall infield needs to be brought up. So the dirt part of the infield doesn't meet the grass part. It's way too low, which creates lips, terrible hops up in the kids' face areas. I've been hit myself. And right field is just, it's, I don't know if it's sinking or what, or if it's always been like that. I mean, I played up there in the early 2000s and I don't remember it being like that. So maybe that's just nothing, it's kind of out of our hands. Me and Mike Porter and we met with the DEP and I forgot the lady's name from Groton Open Space, and we teamed up with her and they gave us the okay to clear a bunch of brush behind the backstop where we lose thousands of dollars of game balls, which cost us about $70 a dozen, and then we go through about a box a game. So a year we go through about $1,000 in baseballs. And we kind of took it upon ourselves just to go, and we had some parents come back and start hacking down some brush, but we just don't have the tools, the industrial size brush hogs and stuff to tackle some of that back there. So that kind of fell by the wayside and we just kept losing baseballs. So, and I'm, like I said, I played there, went there, assistant coach there, and now I've had the program for a few years. And I really just want, I don't want to be begging for stuff. So I just try to do as much as I can on my own, because I have brought up a lot of these things in the previous few years that I've been in charge of the program, and they acknowledge and I've always told them, how did you guys put $1 million into this field, but we don't even have fair foul poles? Like that to me was we had PVC pipe out there that was only like a foot over the fence, and the Schooners were playing there with that. And it's like that kind of makes the base that finishes off the field. We didn't even have that, so we fundraised and we got them put in. But I mean, the list is long of stuff, and I can send it to you in an email chat if you'd like. But those are probably the major things there as far as the field goes.
I would definitely appreciate the list because it'd be good to know. And then, so we just designed and oversaw the installation of all the new fields at Mitchell, including the new synthetic baseball field.
Yeah.
So how many high schools are playing on synthetic yet? Like when you guys are traveling around,
yeah, zero.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I thought. I mean, we see a lot of colleges starting to transition.
Yeah.
But high schools will be next, I think.
Yeah, I think 100%, and especially there was a huge boom. I just noticed a boom this year. Like I said, it wasn't in this state; it was in Long Island. But all their fields were turf, the high schools and everything. You know, and I think if we're in, just for the sake of the proposal, I think if we can figure out a way to maybe get one natural and one synthetic, or like I said, I think just the synthetic, and then maybe take the extra money, get fit, because everyone calls Fitch High School baseball field one of the best in the state, just as far as being up on the hill. You know, some of the scenery you get, you know, the way the sun sets on the game times, you know, 3:30, 4, 5 o'clock. And the grass up there naturally is awesome. It really is. But it just really just needs some TLC to get it and just kind of finished off, you know, just kind of finalized. A lot of the big money they put into it was just for the meat and potatoes, but they forgot about all the other little things that, like you talked about. Listen, I umpired this year on the Eastern Board of Connecticut umpires for baseball. And I did a 5-game day on a Sunday up there, and there wasn't even a porta potty. People are asking me where to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, I didn't know what to tell them. I felt embarrassed.
Embarrassing.
I felt so embarrassed to be like, there isn't one, guys, and you're here for 3 games today. I don't know what to tell you. There is a gas station at the bottom of the hill, though. Go ahead. You know, so that was tough. That was tough, and I didn't want to tell them I was the coach there. I was in an umpire uniform, luckily, because that would have been bad.
So, Frank, we do have Rich Costa with his hand up.
Yep. Go ahead, Rich.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I've been, you know, representing the track team for a while, but I'll put my other hat on as the retired athletic director. And I was the athletic director when that baseball field was renovated. And as Brian just alluded to, the money was not spent on the field. The money was spent putting in the bleachers, which there was none. It was put in the press box. It was to put in the lights. And the money ran out when, you know, there was a plan to put in water to bring it for bathrooms and that thing, but the private money ran out. So there is some maintenance that's needed on the actual field, as Brian said, because when that renovation, I don't want anybody to get the misconception that the field was renovated at that time, because the field was not renovated at that time. The amenities were put in at that time. And just, Brian, while I got you on the phone, the state did come up there and clear that land behind the backstop. I don't think you've been up there, but
oh, no kidding.
They brought in all that equipment, and that area is now completely clear right behind the backstop.
Beautiful. Well, I spoke too soon then. Chad, you can take that one off the list.
Sounds good.
Okay, it's 20 after 8. If anyone else has any comments before we move, I don't see.
I would just like to add one more thing, Fitch baseball side, guys. I know I've been talking a lot, but I do want to shout out Jeff Church, who I don't know if he works for Sam or not, or who he works for, but he really does do a great job on our field. He does his best, and he works with me very closely. And he does whatever he can for me with the resources and time that he has. I just don't think it's enough. It's not his fault, but I just want to shout him out and just let him know, or whoever his boss is, if they're on the line. He really is a huge help to us with what he can do. And that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, he does work for Groton Parks and Rec. I'll share that message with him. Thanks.
And I just wanted to add again and just reiterate, whatever we put forward, that once we get to that point, as it was stated many times tonight, even with field hockey, it's like we put the fields in and then we're like, yes, we got a field, and then the amenities go to the wayside. And I think we really, porta potties, I mean, we just, and sometimes they're not, we just really have to think of that. And I think that alone is just very important. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor. Okay. So if we're done with discussion on that, future actions, I think we talked about having a meeting next week for public comment. I don't know how that would work, Jerry, to be honest with you. Well, I know that this group was more of a list of folks we already had spoken to, and then others that we knew from the high school, et cetera. So you'd have to walk me through what you think about that. So
yeah, the next steps for this group, right now we do have a meeting scheduled for next week. So Thursday night at 7 o'clock again. This is a meeting with stakeholders to kind of run our preferred option by them. And I think we heard a couple things here tonight that are going to help us, that I think we can incorporate into a presentation for the public consumption on the 5th here to kind of vet it one time. And then from there, that, the plan, as we discussed it, was to go to the town council. So that's going to require a process where we'll have to, get on a town council agenda and show up and present this information at that time. We also have, to kind of talk about this, we've talked about it from, lots of different times. How do we fund this? There are, do we fund it as a capital improvement, a series of capital improvement projects, or do we, fund this, suggest funding it through a bond referendum? Do we, as Portia has mentioned, if you get those plans in place, do other things come into play in terms of grant funding and whatnot? So those are all things that we kind of, I don't know that we can, answer all those questions. And it certainly isn't up to this task force whether or not we do it as a capital improvement project or as a bond referendum or what have you. That's somebody else's decision to make. But I think this group, I think one thing that I guess I think it would be behoove this group to kind of wrap its head around what they think the preferred method of doing that would be, to make that recommendation to the council as well. It's not something we can decide, but it's certainly something I think we can recommend and weigh in on. Do we do this piecemeal, like I say, series of CIP projects over the years, or do we, try to bite the bullet and convince the community that it's time to vote in a referendum to solve this issue? So, I can't speak for the committee and whatever, but that's kind of where we're at. One more meeting, and then I think we're going to the town council.
Okay. Anybody else with any discussion points? Any other thoughts before we adjourn? Now, for our next meeting with the public, Jerry, how do we announce that other than what you do already? Is there anything else?
Yeah, we'll put it out there. We have, we'll blast email it. We'll put it on social media. We'll, try to get the word out there that people can sign up, and just kind of, as we did here tonight, we'll have the members of the task force as panelists, and we'll have members of the public as attendees. And if they sign up to speak or, are recognized, we can do the same thing and give them an opportunity. So I would expect next week's meeting to be a lot like this one. But, I guess we'll find out.
I also would recommend maybe try to hit a broader, I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but a broader audience, and try to get it in the paper even, like letting people know like that this is even being talked about, and really try to, let people weigh in, really, the taxpayers, and let them have access to the information. I think it's great because not everybody follows local meetings as much as you might think that they do. So sometimes when they see it, with the newspaper being more digital now, they will respond. So I think it'd be fair to, if someone wanted to take up that.
I think we'll take that on, Portia. Getting the word out to the public is something that the staff is going to take on.
Gary, maybe the other recommendation, just to follow on that too, is if we make a little flyer or something and we can distribute it to all the groups that we've invited in, they can email it around to their, lists, and hopefully get all the more people to show up as well.
Okay. Larry, did you have something?
I was just going to say, use social media to our advantage to get the word out. So if there's something that Jerry's team comes up with that we can all share on our own personal pages as well.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right.
We do have one hand up there. I'm not sure what Bill.
Oh, Jerry, I was just going to say, also in regards to baseball, we have a senior league in Groton now, and all they have is Washington Park to use for their fields to practice and play games. I mean, they didn't have a season really this year, but going forward, Mystic kids are going to be playing in the Groton Senior League. It's not Babe Ruth anymore. So they're going to need extra baseball fields as well. So, you might want to it's under the Groton Little League umbrella. You might want to make sure you reach out to them too, because I'm sure they'd be, intrigued to see what we have going.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So I guess we'll be meeting next Thursday, the 5th, 7 o'clock, same time, 7 to 8:30. It'll be more of a public forum. We'll hopefully get multitudes of people, hundreds of thousands of people to join us. All right, so if we're done with that, so obviously the 5th and then the 19th will be our next scheduled meeting after that. So if there's no other comments, discussion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Danny. I thank everybody, and I especially thank all those who joined from the public. It's great. The more the merrier. I love it. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.